Welcome to another episode of Toot Your Own Horn, Music Matters. I am here with the one and only Anya Combs. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I am great. I am so happy to have you. And as always, we're always eager to hear your stories and learn about you. So tell us, how did it all begin? Where did you discover your instrument?
Yeah, good question. I grew up with a family of musicians. My mom's side of the family, they're all musicians, or at least were involved in music in some capacity. So her father, my grandfather, was a composer.
Oh,
And I grew up with a lot of piano and organ happening in the house. He also played trumpet, clarinet, like he played everything.
oh wow.
Yeah, so I discovered at a very early age that I could just like pluck keys on the piano and it made sounds. And I was like, oh, I can just like play songs. That's cool. So my mom tried desperately to try to like formally teach me how to play piano. And I was like, absolutely not. No, I'm not doing that. So that kind of leads me to the saxophone, which
Was it lying around the house or like, did
Nope.
you hear it on the radio or what was it that got you?
There was no saxophone in the house. I was a ferocious reader as a kid. Just like I read constantly. I was just always had my nose in the books. And I was obsessed with R.L. Stine, specifically the Fear Street books. And I grew up in California, and there was a Fear Street story specifically of a girl who could hold her breath for 2 minutes because she was an avid swimmer. And obviously, growing up in California, you swim all the time. And I was really into swimming. And she played the saxophone. And so I was like, that's cool. That seems like a fun thing. So when it was time to pick your instrument for like, I think 6th grade band, I was like, yeah, I'll just do that. And then just kind of fell in love with it.
Oh, that's cool that it came out of a story. That's really fun. I love that. And so you started in 6th grade, and was it just like some extra thing to do, or were you super into it, or kind of what was your attitude about music then?
I think music is something that I kind of knew I like wanted to do. It in some ways it sort of wasn't really an option, just in the sense of like I wasn't really good at anything. Like I don't have an athletic bone in my body. I can't do any sport to save my life. I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't do any sort of like coding or anything like that. I wasn't, I loved like English and literature and I loved art and like the humanities and the arts and things like that. But with music, it was just sort of a natural progression. So my mom says that I was like singing before I was talking, like just always like music and sounds were something that were like very present. So when I first started 6th grade band, it was just like, oh, got it. Yeah, this is it. This is what I should be doing. So that led me to, band all through junior high and high school, and did honor bands and county bands, and then went to a classical conservatory. And now here I am living this slightly nomadic, crazy life in New York City, playing in a bunch of random bands, doing all this cool, fun stuff through music, which has taken me like literally all over the world. So can't really complain too
I
much.
think you went to the conservatory because saxophone is one of those definitely entrepreneurial paths. You don't play an orchestra. You might teach a bunch of private lessons, either that or you wind up playing new music that's kind of squawky if you're on the classical or jazz, right?
Yeah.
You join a band. And so, like, where did the band part come in? Like, when was it that you realized, oh, I want to play in a band?
Yeah. So I studied when I studied at the University of the Pacific. And I went through the music business track because I was like, I see how hard it is to be a performer. I see how, and I watched a lot of my family try, and they all had other jobs, right? It was like music is a thing, but also like you need to have your job to bring in the income. So it was like, cool, got it. That's kind of the message.
Right.
And also, quite frankly, like I knew, like being a woman, it was just always going to be a lot harder for me. Like I'm not going to have the same opportunities as a lot of my other peers, and that's a reality that, like, unfortunately, I had to face.
Right.
I'm very lucky that my saxophone professor, he was like, "That's great. Do music business. That makes sense. Get that like mindset of music business, but I'm going to push you through." While this isn't a degree that you're going to be pursuing, I'm putting you on the performance track too. So I was doing all of the performance like repertoire and like practicing that all of the performance students did too. Just wasn't getting the degrees necessarily.
That's great.
Yeah, so I was like very lucky to have like an incredible and New York City chaos is happening out here. I'm sorry. This is we live on a main road in New York. It's just always lots of sounds happening. Um but I kind of knew I guess I thought at that point that like the idea of being a performer like wasn't it didn't feel like it was possible for me. It just felt like my role in life was I was supposed to help every other performer. Like I wanted to do artisan repertoire for like different record labels. And when I left college, the economy collapsed.
Right.
And I was like, well, I have 6 figures of student loans that I need to pay off. So it'd be great if this hunk of metal would pay for that, but that doesn't seem realistic. So I took like 6 or 7 years off, and then eventually moved to New York. And one of the promises I made myself when I moved to New York was pick the horn back up because you're in New York. Why would you not
Right.
pursue the arts, right?
When you took
Um,
7 years off, what did you do? Like what? How? Like
Yeah, I actually found myself in the games industry. And so I have this whole other 18-year career in being in the games industry where I was like running an entire division at a crowdfunding company, and I freelance a lot in the games industry now, and I have a legitimate real big girl career in that space. And again, like in New York, it's the people that are doing music 100% of the time are pretty rare without some sort of side hustle or other thing.
right.
And so I've been really lucky to be able to work in two extremely creative fields and constantly work in the arts and creative in like the world of creativity. Not necessarily how I wanted, but how long have I been in New York? Like 12, 13 years, something like that. The last I would say like 5 or 6 years, I've really definitely like built a name for myself too as a performing musician
Yeah.
who I have a little bit of an outlier of like I didn't study jazz, I studied classical, and yet I can kind of like I don't really want to exist in the jazz world. Like it's great. I love jazz. I love listening to jazz. It just doesn't I don't really want to play it. I think there's enough people that are much better than me to do what they need to do in that world, and I'd kind of prefer to pave my own path as a sax player in New York in different genres.
I want to talk about your performing, but I just want to go back to the gaming thing for just a minute. How the
Yeah.
fuck did that happen? How did you just like manifest these skills? Like, could you help us here? Like, help me understand this.
Yeah, I I live a weird life where I kind of just fall into things
Uh-huh.
and just kind of go, I'll figure it out. It can't be that hard. Uh,
What did you fall into that couldn't be that hard that you became a path? What? Because crowdfunding, you mentioned crowdfunding. That's a whole skill set. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? Yeah. So I was working kind of in music. I was working for a world music booking agency. I was like an assistant.
Yeah.
And then I was working for another booking agency that I had a miserable time, and I was like, wow, women aren't treated very fairly. And so then I jumped into the games industry, notorious for not exactly enjoying women in this space. But I got this job at a website called AddictingGames.com, which at that time was like, it was huge. Like millions of people played Flash games, right? Flash gaming was like all the internet games that you play. And they were looking for somebody to basically do A&R, but just for Flash games.
Oh.
And it was under the Viacom brand. So we were under MTV Networks, but we were also part of Nickelodeon. It was this weird, like corporate, I don't know, weird structure that like,
Right.
whatever. But at the time I was like, cool, I could do this like Addicting Games thing and then maybe try to get a job at MTV. But I like,
So why did they pick you? Like, what do you think it was that made them pick you? Because I mean, you didn't have any.
Yeah.
You had some experience.
no
You were an
experience,
assistant,
yeah.
right? Like you weren't.
Yeah.
It wasn't your thing.
Yeah. So they picked me because I didn't have a background in games, and they wanted somebody who would have like a non-objective or completely like subjective eye, fresh perspective, because I was like, I wouldn't look at a game and be like, oh, it's like a spiritual successor to blah, 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 blah. I looked at it and was just like, am I having fun? Cool. It's probably fine. But I kind of realized that the job that I had at Addicting Games it's kind of exactly what I wanted to do. It was just in a different medium, which was I wanted to work with people who are artistic. I wanted to work with artists. I wanted to make sure that creative things were being made. It was just a totally different medium.
Yeah.
And that perspective, I think, is what has like led me to where I'm at in the two different worlds that I live in, where my like professional life, which like they're both professional, but my like big girl job, right, is needing to anticipate artists' needs before they know what they want, and really like honing in on an incredible amount of soft skills. And so being able to transition that when I'm in the artist seat of working, you know, playing in bands and playing weddings and playing with DJs and playing in, you know, all these other different spaces. Great. I can look around me and go, ooh, this is actually exactly the same as making a game. It's just a different medium. So I can bring that perspective of like, cool. What is it that we're missing here? Okay, how do we fill in the gaps of things that we need? And also just sort of check in with myself too of like, am I enjoying this? Is this fun?
Sorry. I just said,
No, you're fine. You're totally.
that obviously paid pretty well and was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
But you left.
well, so I left. I got that job in San Francisco, and then they closed our office down, and they gave people the option to either move out to New York or take a severance. And I was like, I'm moving to New York, of course, obviously. Like, why would I not move to New York? That's crazy. So I took the big corporate job in New York, and after 2 years of that job, I was like, oh, I hate this. I hate working for a corporation. I hate that there's 3 floors of marketing and they don't talk to each other. And what exactly is this? Like, I just don't. This doesn't make sense to me. Like, what is my job? I have no idea. So
Did you feel the woman thing really resonates with me? Did you also feel like there weren't enough women there that were like, were women kind of like pitting each other? What was the scene? What was that like with the women that were there?
yeah, I mean, I think there was a little bit of a hierarchy.
Yeah.
And I'm somebody who's sort of always struggled to find myself in whatever that hierarchy is, just because like I just don't really believe in it.
Right. Yeah, we're right on the same page. I believe it's all, we're all human.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was like, I want to surround myself with people who are more skilled than I am. And I also want to make sure that I find myself at a place where when I do develop those skills, I can make sure that the generation and the people behind me feel uplifted, right? Like I'm always looking at like, who can I work with that's going to make me better, but also I want to make sure that I make myself better to help other people so that they can be better. Like it's that level of hierarchy, I think, makes sense. But the weird, like, pecking order sort of corporate structure of, like, I need to, like, you know, mess with people's brains and all of that. I was like, I don't want to be a part of this. I'm good on that.
Do you think that we get that from the arts, or do you think that we get that from our families, or like, because what you just said, we're like completely in sync about that. Like, that's exactly how I look at things too. And
Yeah.
I just wondered, like, where do you think that came from? Do you think that's an art, something about creating art that helped you, or do you think it's something about your family or both?
I think, to be honest with you, that we're talking about patriarchal structures. I think women are inherently pitted against each other in patriarchal structures because when women do come together and when women do support each other, we're completely unstoppable. And I think in a patriarchal structure like a corporate environment, I think that's very scary to the patriarchy because it will completely dismantle what they've built up.
Mm-hmm. Why is that? That is so weird to me. I guess, and it's because they come together they stop us, and I think that's the only thing they have left.
I think that's exactly it. Is they're backed into a corner, and so they're clawing at everything that they can to keep that structure in place, right? I mean, when it's like children, right? When kids are caught doing something they're not supposed to be doing, they're gonna whine and cry and try to make it everybody else's fault and never take responsibility for their own actions, right? Oh, it wasn't my fault; it was your fault. I didn't do that. No, I would never do that. So I'm gonna pit my parents against each other so that they will fight, so that the attention is no longer on me. It's they have to deal with it, so I don't get in trouble for my action.
I just feel like corporations could so benefit from art therapy. Like so this fantasy of people having to blow into a wind instrument and just embarrass themselves in front of their colleagues so that they actually have to become honest and human.
Yep. I would love nothing more, or at least just like, quite honestly, write exactly 3 of your feelings down. Like, right, that might help.
They might actually be able to do it after they played something. I really actually think it's so powerful. So, okay, so amazing. So you get out of this, and then what? Then what happens after that?
So I applied for this job at this company called Kickstarter. which I like kind of knew about, but like I didn't know the depth of it, right? And so it was similar to everything that I've been doing kind of in my games career as it is. I got hired because I worked very much in the digital sector of games, so like video games, online games, things like that. And I wasn't super deep into like the board games or the tabletop role playing community.
Right.
And they needed somebody that had more digital experience of helping creators be successful on the platform. So I was like, that seems cool. Yeah, sure. So I was extremely lucky, got that job. And that completely changed my life entirely. And there are pros and cons, right? It's like I became very public in that space, in the gaming space, which like can be really scary.
Right.
That was also right at the sort of not, I don't want to say tail end because it's still happening, but that was around the time of something called Gamergate, where women were being targeted just because we're women.
I didn't know that.
Oh, it's a whole horrible thing. It's a long, complicated story, craziness. But it was, my life just completely changed. But that job also kind of gave me a lot of confidence to pursue things that I wanted to pursue because I was truly surrounded by just nonstop artists. Most people that worked at Kickstarter also had some sort of art project, and they were musicians and they were filmmakers and they were game design. There was everything that existed, and I was just surrounded by this constant stream of creativity. And it was like the first couple of years of that job it was a dream. It was amazing. It was incredible. I got to just like be surrounded by like all these creative, wonderful humans and help this whole new crop of game designers become successful and watch their careers and their trajectories just change overnight. So it was amazing.
So were you primarily helping raise money for gamers for the gaming industry? So that's the track that you were in. I get it.
Yeah. So I was basically second in command for the games category, which was raising millions upon millions of dollars on the platform. It was the most successful category. Eventually, I took over the category and ran the entire division for, I think, the last 2 years that I was there, which also was around the time that lockdown happened. So that was a wild time.
What did that do to Kickstarter through that? I don't really know what happened when everything started locking down.
It made it more successful because people were desperate for forms of entertainment and communication. And so you couldn't just you couldn't go to Target, you couldn't go to Walmart, you couldn't go to your local game store, right? But you could pledge to these projects online and they would come 6 months later and nobody knew how long it was going to last. So people were just spending wild amounts of money on the platform. And we were scared. We didn't know what was going to happen, but it all just kind of made sense. And in a weird way, it was like, because of the pandemic, it helped catapult everything even more.
Wow.
Pros and cons, right? It's like while that's happening, I'm also watching all these venues shut down. I'm like, I can't play gigs. Like the only thing that we can do is this wild restaurant busking. And I, it's great that it brought in some income, but also like, this isn't what I really want to be doing. So it was such a like emotional, weird, complicated, like so interesting to navigate. But I also I left that job in March of 2022 because quite honestly, I was at the top of my game and I was like, the next move would be into full middle management. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to do things I want to do, and I'm not going to be happy. I might be successful and I might have, like a significant pay raise and all of that stuff that you're supposed to do. But if the cost is my mental health and if the cost is me not doing the things that bring me joy, it's not worth it to me. So I may as well leave having the best numbers that the company had ever posted, at least in that time, and having such an incredible amount of success behind me, leave, wash my hands of it, and figure out the next thing. And again, like I said earlier, I'll figure it out as I go along. And so the last 3-ish years or so has just me kind of 4-ish, I guess, has been me sort of figuring it out. And that also is what helped me do even more in music, which has been great.
So did you take do you have another day gig? Do you have another big job?
So I freelance. I'm a freelance in games. I run a lot of crowdfunding campaigns for people. I do community building, community management, business development. I was just at a huge conference last weekend called PAX East, which was I think it was 100,000 people go. And I helped a friend out in her booth. She makes this beautiful jewelry from dice.
Yeah.
So she makes dice. I don't have any example. Well, these are terrible examples actually. But she makes glasses chains, and she hand makes everything. Everything's handmade. So she makes glasses chains that have dice in them, and they're all adjustable. She makes really beautiful dice necklaces and chokers and earrings and all these beautiful, gorgeous things. So it's a joy. I get to help out a friend and help her sell her product, and then, do my own sort of like side business on the side. I also got to play saxophone, which was great at a panel for friends of mine who do this. They do a Dungeons and Dragons one shot called Oops All Himbos. So like, being able to sort of like mold all of my passions into one physical space and be able to quite frankly, show off is like, it's like, it's exhausting. I was exhausted. I did 7 panels and, was running around and did it all solo. And I'd just come off of 6 weeks of touring. Like it was a lot, but also like, being able to reflect and be like, this is a lot. And this would maybe like, I don't know if not everybody can live this life, but like, this is exactly the life that I want to be living, at least in its current trajectory. And it's only going to go up. So like, cool. I can complain.
How fun. What did you do in crowdfunding? I have a little bit of crowdfunding experience. I worked with guys that created the crowdfunding space for Regulation A, Saxophone Capital Advisor. So I worked on one little project with World Bank and, so on. But how cool to get to live there. What did you actually do? Were you in the market? I mean, were your hands in all of it? Were you in the marketing? What were you doing there?
Yeah. So that was 100% through Kickstarter, was because it's, the biggest creative crowdfunding platform.
Right.
So it was all just like helping game creators sort of like figure out the best way to be successful. So like, cool, let's do like Kickstarter 101s. I got flown around the world to go speak at different conferences and was basically almost like an evangelist for the platform, and became one of the faces of the company. And so I was sent out literally all over the world. I've been to Croatia several times. I've done conferences in Japan. I've been to Germany.
Oh, fun.
Canada, just kind of everywhere. I actually have a call with somebody from Canada next week about possibly helping them out with a couple crowdfunding panels for a conference that they want to do. So it was cool. It was fun. It was awesome. Went to Portugal a couple years ago to do some crowdfunding work out there. Yeah. And so now as a freelancer, right, my crowdfunding knowledge as like one of the crowdfunding experts is same thing, right, as I was doing a Kickstarter, but I'm doing it for myself, and I'm doing it on my own terms. So I don't have to represent the company. I can be a little more honest about things, right? And Kickstarter is not the only crowdfunding company. So like working with different companies and advocating for people as best that I can. But those skills have been really helpful, especially as like, being in bands where maybe people don't have the best business mindset, and sort of saying, okay, let me see what's going on here. Does this make the best business sense? And having those conversations has been like a huge advantage for me.
Yeah. And how do you does what from a business perspective influence what band you join from a creative perspective? Because it's like, if they don't have their act together, but they play great music, is that good or bad? Like,
yeah, I mean, the simple answer is no, in the sense of like, I'm at a place where it's like, I'd rather play with people that I enjoy playing with more than anything else. So even if I'm presented with an opportunity where it's like, this could be a lot, this could be like a wild amount of money, but I know it's not going to be a good time, I'm not going to do it.
that's great.
I see it more from the perspective of like, if there's a band that is extremely talented and has incredible music, but they have no business sense, I'd actually prefer that, because it means that there's time to sort of like mold and help, right? Do the thing that I do in my other life and bring that into the thing that I love the most in the world. Like, why would that not be awesome? That's fantastic. Like, cool. You guys don't know? Great. Let's figure it out together. I can teach you.
And are they teachable as the woman being the lead, or are you finding that people have listen? I mean, you're clearly qualified. It's not that.
I mean, I think there's different personalities, and some of that is like, some people like directness and some people just need to have questions asked. Some people need to come. I'm like that. Sometimes it's like you kind of need to come to it on your own terms. And sometimes you need to have multiple people telling you the same thing. And
so the difference.
If they take my advice or not. I mean,
was that a test? Like, you see if they'll take a little bit of your advice, and if they won't, then it's something else?
Yes and no. I mean, I've never really been shy in giving my opinion. All right. I mean, sometimes,
Interesting.
yeah. And it's like, it sucks because it's like, then you get the reputation of being like bossy or mouthy. And I'm like, well, you asked. What do you want?
And that's sexism as it is, because it's like
Yeah.
men would do that and never be called those things. So,
No, they get rewarded for it. Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. I mean, I think having to deal with like a lot of the things that I've had to deal with in the games industry I have a little bit of a wall of just like I have a very like I like to say that I run a tight ship. And despite being somebody who exists in worlds that people don't necessarily expect to have like a type A regimented person, right? Like I exist in the punk world. I exist in a weird brass punk experimental, kind of very strange space. I run a tight ship, right? Like I have everything organized. I have Google calendars. Everything's color coordinated. I live off of my spreadsheets. I live off of the ways that I can exist just to like keep my brain organized. And not everybody does that, and that's totally okay. But I need to do that for myself, and I've had to learn to just like sort of expect that not everybody is also going to do that, and that is okay because it has to take all different types of people to make something run, and everybody has a different skill set, and it's impossible for one person to have all the skill sets. That's a completely unreasonable ask to ask of somebody. So like I'm in a band called Quizzy and the Brains, and not many of them have a lot of business experience, right? And so being able to come in and say like, okay, let me do my best to sort of explain what I think should be happening, but just because I think it should be happening doesn't mean it should be happening, right? And the coolest part of that band is everybody does sort of have their role, and they have affectionately started calling me Mamya because I do tend to sort of mom a little bit and just be like, all right, cool. So here's our schedule. It's all in the shared calendar that we have. I have the fees associated. I have the driving times. I have everything that's in there. I have the time that we're supposed to be on stage. I have everything in the calendar. None of them use the calendar.
Oh, that's got to be frustrating.
I mean,
It turned into mom pretty quick.
yeah. So I'm like, well, it's in the calendar. Okay, you guys aren't going to look at the calendar. Great, no problem. I have it in the calendar, so I can just tell you, right? I kind of took on the role the last couple of tours of booking all of our hotels because I tend to find like decent deals and
Right.
do a little bit of just like price structuring. They taught me about a great app to use when you're touring. So it was like, cool, awesome. I get to, that's a new skill that I get to learn. Now I get to fine tune that skill, right? And then I check in with them of like, okay, here's maybe some driving time between places if we want to look at a hotel. Here's a couple different options. How do we want to do this? I'm going to present you with options. We're going to figure out the best for everybody, right? Because I know our drummer might need his own room, so let's book something for this amount of people. Great. We need to make sure that there's an extra couch because we all share a hotel room, like all these sort of different regimented things. And so I'm lucky that I have the brain space to sort of go through those checklists in my brain and then make it happen. And I think they've sort of learned that like things just kind of happen. They don't necessarily know why, but they just know it's happening. And that I think is awesome because it means that I've built that trust with a group of people that I didn't know until the like 3 years ago, right? So in some ways we're all still kind of still getting to know each other.
Yep.
And the only way this works, especially on the road, is if we build trust with each other. So they have that trust in me that it's like, yeah, it's going to get handled. Don't worry about it. It's fine, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Love that. That's exactly where I want to be.
And so do you get paid for that?
I don't. I wish I did. I mean, I think that's the difference between the traditional classical world and the traditional jazz world in a sense, right? Like in the punk world, there's not anybody. We're just trying to figure it out, right? Our world is very different. It doesn't exist like the corporate world, right? Like I got hit up recently today for a wedding in June. Great. Here's the fee. You might need to get some insurance. Here's everything that's associated. In punk, it's cool. Does this tour make sense for us for the next thing that we could possibly do? And what is sort of the trajectory of that we're trying to do? Well, we have a lot of accolades behind us. We've done really amazing things and toured with huge names in our space. But really our world is more about being present and being kind of there, right? Keep in mind too that like Spotify has been focusing on women punk, which is great, but it's a very small list. It's a very small list. Dial that down even more. Who are the saxophone players? right? And then dial that even more. Who are the female saxophone players in this space, right? So I do the games thing to be able to pay for the incredible amount of opportunity that I'm presented with in terms of touring, but also I book wedding gigs. I have other gigs that pay in the music world. So it's really about like, this isn't necessarily paying me now, but it is fulfilling needs, artistic needs that I have that I would absolutely not get if I was just slogging through the jazz world and just being, and quite frankly, just kind of being miserable in the space.
Mm-hmm. And so I can see how it fills your need for wanting to work with creators and helping them and to nurture them. You're playing with more than one band? Are you not playing with a bunch of them? So is your goal to manage them, or is your goal to help try to blow them up? Like, is there is there a vision you have for trying to help them beyond playing?
Well, I think with bands, I want to be an artist, right? Like that's what I want to do. I want to play. I love being on stage, and I love playing, and I love creating, and I love practicing, right? Like they kind of, I don't want to say they laugh at me, but I think they were a little bit surprised when I toured with them for the first time. And I was like, yeah, I do my daily warm-ups, right? Like I do all my scales every single day. I do the thing that I'm trained to do. And they were like, oh, that's crazy. We didn't know people do that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't just pick up my horn and play on stage. That's insane. Why would I do that? Right? Like, no, I practice. And that's the thing from an artistic space that brings me the most joy. And like my hope and my dream and my goal is to be able to do more of that in music so that I can do less in games, because in some ways I've achieved so much in the game space, and I could continue, and I will continue to do that, but I want to be more picky about what I do in games because I want music to be the thing that I do the most of, right? My partner is also he plays trombone and sousaphone, and is like, I'd say for him it's 80-20. 80% of his income comes through music, 20% of his income is through pet care. So he does dog walks and cat care and things like that.
She lives closer. We need a dog person, but that's okay.
Oh,
Well,
we'll chat later. I probably know somebody where you live, but we've weirdly found ourselves also doing some like film and TV stuff, which has been really interesting too. And so that's opened some other avenues of like not just private events and not just weddings, but like we were in the season finale of season 2 of Severance, the big like marching band scene. Which is really cool. And we did the Video Music Awards last year. We were in a show called Stumble. I did Fashion Week last year. That was weird. So being able to do cool things like that too has been really great, and that's opened even more doors and more avenues for us. So having that income to be able to pay for more of just being able to pay my bills, and everything's so expensive these days. It's like you got to book even more and more and more and more. So I'm trying to do more in the music space, but it's like it's all cyclical. So right now there's not a ton on my calendar for music, so I'm going to do more games. Come summer, I'll probably have more stuff in music, and I'll do a little bit less in games. But the goal is to start easing out of as much of the game stuff and just bring in more income through music. But like, again, it's going to be cyclical, and it's just a time sort of thing. But again, the thing that brings me the most joy in music is playing. That's what I want to do. I also like, I get this question a lot, especially from my peers and my friends in the games industry, of like, this is crazy. Like you just suddenly your music career just like came out of nowhere. And I was like, well, that's not exactly what happened, but like, the question of like, why would I be doing all of this touring for no money? It's not just like love of the thing that I'm doing, but what I think people don't see is we play a lot of all ages shows. And the number of like young girls that come to our shows, or it's like their first show, and they're either, like 14, 15, I'd say 14 to 20 roughly. The number of young girls that come up to me after that are like, one, I've never seen a girl play the saxophone. I didn't know a girl could play the saxophone. And then immediately followed by, I'm now going to play the saxophone, right?
that's awesome.
it's incredible, right? And I've had women my age say, I put my horn down because I was told like girls just can't do this, and I still have it and I haven't played it in 20 years, and I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna go pick that horn back up. I'm like, yeah, that's why this is really important to me, right? Like that new generation of people learning that it's like you don't need to be beholden to these genres that we associate with these instruments. You can do whatever you want. It's fine. Get weird with it, like get experimental and get kind of uncomfortable. Like that's so much more important to me than anything else when it comes to like being a performer, is like making sure that, again, right, looking to the people that I look to make me better. I want to make sure that like I do keep that trajectory of people that are younger than me.
Well, you're traveling because you're so organized. It's like, why don't you like, I mean, maybe you've already thought of this, but why don't you contact area music stores or see if you can get them rentals or sell them gear or like make, it just seems like there's so many connecting points around that, like it just makes my heart go, ooh, like,
I know it was really hard this last tour, just the way that it was structured. We had like 6 to 8 hour drives almost every single day.
Yeah.
So, but we've gone to a couple music stores too. It's also a little bit challenging just because like I am the only horn player in the band, so it's like I can't just go to Guitar Center, right? Like I have to go to these specialized stores,
right?
And it's a little bit challenging to be like, hey, everybody in the van, can we go to this very specialized store just for me, versus a music store where it's like they have drums and guitars and amps and basses and like things that they all play.
Right.
It would be a little bit out of the way, but I've thought about other ways to kind of like do some of that, like to a certain degree, like education. But it's, I've only been touring with this band for about 2 years, and so I'm still kind of like figuring out the best trajectory for some of that. But it's definitely something that's like crossed my mind of like I could do more visibility.
For sure you could do that, because it's, I mean, that the numbers are down, that the arts and music and is going in the wrong direction, and the fact that you're getting that much momentum and you're getting so many girls to turn up who want to play the saxophone. I'm like, oh my gosh, you've got to think a little more about that, because your mind works to be able to figure out what to do to leverage that into something more where everybody wins, right? Because it seems really clear that that's your strategy, is to figure out how to help everybody. And God knows the stores need that. They desperately need that. And the girls need that. They need someone when you're gone to then be able to go to and be like, how do I continue this? And whether it be you come back and do a master class with them or you get them started. I don't know. There's like so many ways I could think of that you might be able to leverage that into just an even more blossoming opportunity.
No, I completely agree. And I do want to sit down and think about that a little bit more. It's sometimes, to be honest with you, I'm also just like, I just want to sit in the van and not think. Like I need my time to recharge, and they're very kind and they give me my entire back. I have a whole seat to myself. I have a little couch back there. I have a whole setup. It's great. Like they're very nice. I get treated very well by the boys. I can't complain.
Well, if somebody was listening to this and just like, oh my God, I want to play the saxophone now, what would you tell them to do to start tomorrow? What would you say?
I think the first thing I would say is like, first of all, go find one, right? And you don't necessarily, like, music stores are great. That's awesome. You also, there's things like Facebook Marketplace, right? I mean, obviously it's like look for scams and things like that, but like Facebook Marketplace is an awesome opportunity. You probably know a music teacher. You probably have a music teacher in your life to some capacity, and they may have a horn that they're just giving away. You never know, right? I would say like, private lessons are awesome. Private lessons are also not accessible for everybody, right? For a myriad of different reasons. YouTube can be your best friend. Better Sax is a great option. Better Sax, I don't remember his name, but Better Sax is a great tutorials. Dr. Wally is great. I love Dr. Wally's videos. They're fantastic. They teach you so much. He does so many online courses and things like that. The internet can be awful, but the internet can also be your friend. Follow saxophone players on Instagram if you have Instagram, or TikTok, or like wherever you're comfortable on social media. Start following, just follow people and listen and find the music that you like, right? It might be that jazz isn't your thing. That's totally fine. And you love classical music. There's tons of classical saxophone that does exist. If classical isn't your thing and jazz is your thing, great. Listen to everything that you possibly can. If none of that is your thing, just listen to things that bring you joy, like whatever sort of like fits into your earworm, right? Like this brings me joy. You don't like if you get to the point of doing transcriptions and things like that, saxophone transcriptions are great for you to learn the function of your instrument. Transcriptions in general, just for your ear, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's voice, right? If you're thinking about it from the perspective of like, I want to start soloing, I think doing saxophone solo transcriptions can be super overwhelming. So just start listening to like songs with lyrics of voices that you like and start transcribing that, because really what we want to do like as horn players is we want to tell a story when we're soloing, and we want people to like feel something, right? Like it's not necessarily always about how fast you can play or how many notes you can play or what your licks are, right? Like that's good, that's great, and that's incredibly impressive, but really like our job as horn players in my eyes is to make people feel something. So whatever touches you and makes you like, whatever elicits whatever emotion it is that you feel, do that on your horn and just do it as much as you can until it feels right. And you only know what that feels like until you can feel it, right? Like it's like, oh yeah, okay, this feels right, this feels good.
And if somebody wants to hear you play, where can they go listen?
I exist on the internet despite my objections to existing on the internet. I think across all social platforms, I have everything except Twitter because gross. But I pretty much exist everywhere else. At Anya Combs her hair.
Anya Combs her hair. I love that.
Yeah. I'm one of the few sax players that isn't like Anya plays sax. I was like, nah, Anya Combs her hair. I think that's better. It helps everybody remember my name. So.
Well, you're amazing. I am so lucky
you.
to have had you, and I really appreciate you coming. It's just an amazing story. Your story is just it's this wild story.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.